Usually, it somewhere like scene takes some time to start. So hopefully, by the time once we are in 1 minute in, we will be good.
Is it okay if I drink my tea rather than my
Yeah,
coffee?
of course, of course.
I don't get that.
It's cloud and coffee, so you can have a coffee. Of course, that can get replaced with the tea. But
Navneet, you should start using StreamYard. It gives you like you hit live and it will be live in like maybe
yeah,
just
but
one
the only
one or
thing
two
is like
seconds.
it's required a lot of setup with the StreamYard. Maybe I can learn from you, but last time I tried the StreamYard, then I kind of have technically.
Actually, StreamYard is easier. I'm pretty sure Andrew does StreamYard here. I don't know. Joe might be doing StreamYard as
Okay,
well.
so we are live.
Hi,
Hey,
Welcome.
how's it going? The
Who's
suspense is killing me here.
there? Wave to us.
Cool.
Okay, so I think we are live here, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining my channel, Current Coffee with Navneet. And today we are going to have very, very interesting discussions. We all are in data space. We're talking about data day long, right? I think even Joe is post in evening too. So, and uh, and uh, I've seen people, even Ravid, kind of responding people in the night time too. So we will kind of talking about data day long, day night, right? If I have to say in a way. But other thing has happened in parallel is the GenAI, and when we're talking about the GenAI and data, people are talking the GenAI and the data together. So it's like the garbage in, the garbage out concept. So if you're not having the good data, you're not going to have a better GenAI. Uh, for you. So what we're looking to understand in this one, we are not looking to understand how the GenAI works, what all things we need to do for the GenAI to work better. We're trying to understand the ecosystem, especially primarily more around the data ecosystem around the GenAI. When I say ecosystem, I'm talking not around the technology, since technology is going to be part of it, but more around people and processes around it. How, as a data engineer, how our career, or as a data professional, how our career is going to evolve with the GenAI. And that's where I'm having the known faces in from our industry joining us. I will let them introduce one by one. Maybe, Ravid, let's start with you.
yeah. First of all, Navneet, thanks for inviting me on the show. It's such a pleasure. I'm founder and host of the Ravid Show, where obviously on the Ravid Show we do a lot of talking as well, just like how you're doing right now, where I get to obviously explore fascinating intersections between data and AI, engage with a lot of audience, some of the top minds in the industry as well. Joe has been on the show, Roy has been on the show, Andrew and I kind of share a lot of, obviously common themes when we kind of go out and share with different things with communities. So same sort of stuff. And talking about Gen AI, obviously, it's been a huge part of what I do as well, because it's not only just influencing the content, but also how I engage with my audience sometimes. So there are various tools that we're kind of using when it comes to content creation. I feel that is in AI one thing when people talk about implementation, content pieces. AI has helped a lot. Talk about even the smallest thing about removing a background noise. Maybe the Christmas voice right now that's running behind. If I have to remove, I might use a
Hint,
tool,
hint.
right? So that's something I think Gen AI is just not for at least content creators. It's more than a trend. It's something which is transforming this space, and I'm excited about it. So
Okay.
yeah, that's a little about me.
Yeah, Andrew, and again, Andrew is kind of coming very first time in my show, so thank you, Andrew, for joining me here. Maybe we can move to the Andrew.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I'm an evangelist at Dremio, a data lakehouse management platform, and I've spoken at probably 35 AI conferences this year. And it's all about, when I say AI, it used to be deep learning. And now when I say AI, people are thinking Gen AI. And that seems to be what's getting funded. So it's an important important concept to talk about because I don't think it's going anywhere.
Thank you. Now we can move to our next guest, who's kind of preparing first time and has been very known voice and writer of a fundamental of a data engineering book, which is I think the bestseller book on the data engineering space. Joe, over to you.
Hey, what's up? Hey, by the way, there's still Christmas music playing in the background.
Do we need still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're recording this in the mall.
There we go. Cool.
Send
I
it
was going to start speaking to the beat, but it's good to see everybody here. I'm Joe. I don't know what really to say otherwise. Than I'm glad to be with everybody. So,
And our regular guest on the show, Roy, over to you. And he's an old friend of mine. We've worked together at AWS.
nice.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Navneet, again. No, really excited, Roy. I lead the product and marketing team at Absolver. We're a lakehouse management company doing a bunch of work around Iceberg and streaming. Honestly, like GenAI, all the hype and all the things that are sexy and kind of customer facing, like agents and things like that, I've actually managed to ignore for the most part. But where I see GenAI really exciting, and hopefully that's kind of the conversation we'll get into, is really about how do we leverage this in data pipelines, in data engineering, the actual meaningful GenAI stuff, as opposed to the thousandth agent that can write an email for me. But anyway, that's kind of me, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of my stuff online. I'm a big critic of AWS. I'm a previously AWS employee and a product manager, so I've been kind of throwing stones the other way a little bit, but actually the reception has been really good. So, hopefully something positive will come out of it.
You've not been critical to AWS, you've been critical to everyone. Talking about the AI. So if you are joining my show very first time, thank you being a viewer, and please do subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm still struggling to get even 500, so please. And to connect me over LinkedIn, I try to share the knowledge which I have gained over the period of year with the community. That's why I'm doing this podcast as well. So thank you. So this is how we're going to have like our next 50 minutes, where we're looking to go into multiple segments, trying to understand, and primarily we are trying to more understand how GenAI is going to affect us as in human, more human on the data space. What skill we should be learning, how we should be getting prepared for changes which we are going to be in a GenAI. Because someone rightly said, I don't know who, but GenAI will not replace you. The person who knows the GenAI able to replace you. So let's go and try to understand. So my first question with you, Joe, and then you've been a bestseller author of Fundamental of Data Engineering. So help me understand how the GenAI able to disturb that traditional data engineering work which we do.
I think it depends on what aspect of data engineering you're talking about. I think if you kind of zoom out and look at the kind of deeper life cycle, right? Ingesting data, doing something with it, storing it, querying it, serving it. I don't think that goes away, unless the entire data engineering workflow sort of goes away as well, nor do the undercurrents, right? You got to consider security, data management, all these different things. So I don't think the life cycle itself changes with GenAI. I don't. I mean, because if you look at the characteristics of what GenAI does, right? Generative AI either generates new data or it summarizes it. So the synthesis or summarization is typically where it's strongest. So if you look at those capabilities, even when you look at quote agentic workflows, which are the hot thing towards kind of tail end of this year and going into next year and so forth, I don't see it changing the fundamental way in which we do data engineering. Over time, who knows? What I foresee actually happening is more of a convergence over time of software and machine learning and data, but that's a topic for probably a different discussion or day or year or whatever. But yeah, so that's kind of where I see it impacting things. Interestingly, over the weekend I was checking out Claude's computer use API, and I think that is fascinating. you should definitely check it out. I don't know if you don't know what it is. It's simply a way for Claude to visually control your computer, given a set of instructions and do tasks. I think that is fascinating and holds a lot of, I think, very interesting, I don't know, open-ended use cases and questions for people that work at desk jobs with computers. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the original questions. Yeah. So.
Yeah. So maybe I can move to this question because Roy has said like the actual meat around the GenAI is not the GenAI. We all talking more around the data engineering is how the data engineering pipeline being transformed. And if you see lately, data organizations, Databricks, that they just had, I think, the round of funding, right? Uh, and they just got like 62 billion in data value. They just have a 62 billion of valuation now. That's huge for a data company, right? So, right, and then Snowflake that being kind of launching feature, right, left and center, and then within the AWS, and I'm sure Azure and Microsoft, other data companies too, launching all kind of a GenAI feature. So, right, what's your take here? How you think, like, that model data pipeline look like? As Joe has mentioned, the fundamental will not change, but the way we consume the data, we bring the data, it may have some changes here.
I think what the biggest impact that I see in terms of data modeling is what I've been talking about over the world this year about mixed modeling arts, which is we're moving away from a world where we're only focused on data that's in tables. So certainly will still exist. Your phone has SQLite on it, for example. Like everything is tables. But increasingly, you're talking about different forms of data, different modalities, unstructured data, semi-structured, structured. And sort of what I see happening is the intersection of all these forms of data to derive either new types of data or new, quote, insights we haven't been able to unlock before. So I see the world is moving towards data across multiple use cases, applications, analytics, machine learning, AI, with different forms of data. So I think more than anything, it's opening up. GenAI opens up the possibilities for us to do things with data we probably thought was science fiction before, right? Being able to remix data in certain ways. I think we're only just getting started in that. I mean, a litmus test for the audience and for anybody here is when you walk down the street or drive down the road, look at how many security cameras there are. What happens to that data right now, right? I mean, you're being photographed and filmed everywhere. Ring doorbells, security, street cameras, whatever, right? And so what do we do with all this data and how is it all intersecting? I think that's, to me, one of the most fascinating questions to be asking right now is what do we do with all this data that so far has just been existing on kind of, just like hard drives, right? So
We still got that.
I use them all the time for filming. Yeah.
No, but I completely agree with you, Joe. And I think for me, what's most exciting about maybe GenAI is the wrong term because that's kind of like a marketing term, but
yeah,
there's a lot of technology under the hood, without being super specific, but there's a lot of technology under the hood that's sort of driving features and capabilities that are not customer facing. So the things that we see are the chat GPTs where you ask a question and you get an answer or you get a summary. But what Joe is talking about and kind of what I'm really excited about is the things that we can leverage AI to deliver value without the user having to do anything. So like one thing that we're looking at heavily is, we're obviously in the data path. Like we bring data in, we optimize it, we make it easier for engines to query and for users to query it. There's a lot of things that have to happen behind the scenes that today have sort of fallen on the data engineering team to go and do and implement. Right? Now we're looking at AI and technologies to be able to simplify that and completely automate that and actually do it better and faster and more intelligent than any engineer can do on their own. And to me, that's kind of the benefit. So yes, there'll be tools like copilots and chat GPTs and those kind of things. What's what happened under the hood that's really, really exciting, multimodal, models and data processing, like, as analytics folks, data folks, we really don't talk about unstructured data. right? Like video and audio and things like that, and text files. Like now we're starting to have those conversations where databases and data warehouses and even data lakes aren't really designed to handle that. But that's going to come, right? Maybe not this year, but I think it's going to come soon enough where all of our systems will have to adhere to it. But then the tools that we have today for like BI and ETLing and data prep and exploratory data analysis, like none of that is designed to work with this type of data. And that's where AI is going to be super powerful.
Agree. I think what I'm seeing is, especially within the customer field, is the data acquisition. Like I've been clearly see there is a shift, paradigm shift, how they used to collect the data and do the batch processing, and now more and more people wanted to do and move towards the streaming use cases. And when we talk about the streaming, is hey, we are looking to bring most of data which is being unstructured in the nature in very first place itself. Andrew, I have a question for you. So again, in this podcast, this is very personal, so do not reflect the view of any employer or any guest who is sitting here, their employer. So just kind of disclaimer. I done the disclaimer there too. But Andrew, I will just quote you as you're an evangelist and you work for the team. You help us, like I'm just giving a Dreamio as just one engine which works on the top of data. But how, like we have within the AWS space, we are having Athena, right? We are having Redshift, and then Snowflake. Then data Redshift has a data SQL and etc. So how this data engines evolve around this use cases, which when we talk about GenAI use cases, where you're not just looking to kind of consume the tabular data, but you're also looking to consume that unstructured data, uh, right? So if you can just provide your thought there. I think you're on mute.
It's because I breathe heavy, so I put myself on mute to save you. But the lakehouse architecture pattern, which is essentially the same as the warehouse architecture pattern, the main benefit I see is that you can have different components, right? You can decentralize your engine and whatnot. Like Dremio started as an engine 10 years ago, and now it's a full lakehouse management platform. I think there's very few clients who only use a query engine. But I think back to your larger question, as you're talking about like how are query engines evolving, it's in streaming. When I go consult with clients, Fortune 100 companies, and streaming comes up so much. But when I really dig into the use case, it's like, why do you need streaming? Like, what are you actually trying to do? And for the most part, batch or micro batch is actually easier and better for them. They just wanted streaming because they heard that streaming was the best. I don't know. Maybe they read a Confluent ad. Who knows? But streaming can be good. But I think the larger impact is that now that we can either automate or augment with this technology, it's really thinking through like, what's our actual business strategy? What are we actually trying to accomplish? What's our product? And how does our data strategy back that up? And then how does AI support our data strategy? And do we need streaming or batch or micro batch? Like, what do our pipelines look like to support our data strategy, to support our business strategy? And having those conversations have been super helpful in the C-suite, so that it's not just pick your favorite shiny tool, and we don't get into the modern data stack problem again of just bolting a bunch of crap together. And then FinOps comes out and is like, oops, it all costs way too much, peel it back. So I think most organizations, especially with the regulatory concerns, are trying to be more thoughtful in how they approach implementing AI into their strategy, including whether they're streaming or batching or which tool they use, Trino, Dremio, Athena, whatever. Being thoughtful about how does it support the business strategy.
Yeah, agree. I've been one other use case which I've been seeing on the ground is use of GenAI, or more like not even GenAI, I would call it semantic search. So now everything is tied around the GenAI, but the self-service, right? Hey, how we able to make the data discoverable? So other, like when you able to discover the data earlier, you have to go using the keyword search and able to find the data. But what I'm seeing is customer is looking to do more of a semantic search or vector search or whatever you want to call it. to get the meaningful information from the data itself. So I will come back to you, Roy, again for this one. Is like how you think that self-service use cases is going to evolve with the Gen.
Self-service, like self-service analytics, or is self-service kind of.
Self-service analytics, you can, yeah.
I mean, I think there's a lot of aspects to that. I mean, the Copilot is definitely one really nice way to enable self-service to some degree, whether it's me needing help writing a pipeline, me needing help troubleshooting a pipeline, things that traditionally have sort of average users or regular business users would be like, I need a data team to solve this problem. I think can alleviate a lot of that pain through Copilots, who really understands kind of like the AWS Glue. They released some mechanisms to be able to kind of parse the Spark logs and extract the relevant information. Like I think that's only going to get better and better. So for anybody who try to troubleshoot Spark workloads, know exactly how painful that is. I think Copilot's a big. I think I just published a post on my blog that talks about kind of like what I see for 2025, kind of like the trends. And one of them is honestly, I think it's the beginning of the end of BI, right? Like if we look at what people really need from BI, it's answers, right? They don't need pretty graphs and dashboards. Like that's just give me something to look at so I can make a decision off of that. They really want an answer. So I think a lot of that is going to be replaced by prompts. Just ask the question that you want and let the engine behind the scenes figure out the query, figure out what engine to pull it from, figure out how to run it as fast as possible, what BI visualization you want to generate out of that. If you want to build some reports, at the end of the day, I just want an answer. So I think that's going to drive the self-service analytics forward. As much as we all kind of pushed against it and say it will never happen, it's going to happen, right? People want to be independent. People want, the ability to kind of feel like I solved my own problem. And I think it's going to happen. With regards to data engineering, it's going to be a little harder because I think engineers really want to hold on to those workloads. Like I know how to optimize, I know how to write SQL code, or I know how to write ETL code. Like that's great, but honestly, like that's why even bother? Right. So I think Copilots here, I think some of the stuff I talked about in the past with regards to using AI for optimizations and things like that, that's just going to be baked into products. Why do you need to know how Snowflake processes queries so you can write a join in the most efficient way? Like just write the join, right? Let the engine figure out if it should be a left join or right join. However you organize the joins in your query, should it be subqueries or whatever, right? Let the engine figure it out. Users don't need to know that. And I think it's going to give SQL a lot more power, right? People are like, this is actually easy language to learn and to use. I don't need to know all the intricacies of it because the engine will just figure it out for me. So
I agree. I think that's what more like how well you're going to have a context around your question will be much more relevant down the line than actual writing the SQL query, because I've seen like that abstracting away from any. So Ravit, I met you during the reInvent, and you were
Yep.
you were the talk of the town. And like literally, he was interviewing all the C executives there. So help me, give us some insight from there. Like, okay, which people like us do not get it. Like, how's what how you think, like when you've been executive interacting with an executives, what do you think, like how the discussion comes primarily more around the data space? If you can just give some insights there.
Yeah, sure. No, it was such a pleasure meeting you, Navneet. And it's always, 65,000 people, maybe more than that, who attend reInvent. So it's always busy and it's always good to, catch up with interesting folks. Obviously, like we all know, the topic of the hour was AI. So at AWS, that was like one big topic. Everyone's talking about it. Every executive also is talking about that. But one thing that kind of, obviously stood out for me was the shift from merely just talking about AI to now actively, integrating GenAI as well into business ecosystems, which was happening back then as well, but not as compared to what we're looking at right now. Executives are no longer, asking, should we adopt Gen AI? Should we, talk about AI? They instead it's about how can we scale Gen AI responsibly. So I was kind of seeing that more of the responsible side kind of coming out of it. Obviously, even when we think about, the key themes included, the decision making of AI driven insights, embedding also AI capabilities into the existing workflows that they have. So the enterprise leaders are kind of also wanting to move to the next level. It's still not there. I'm not going to say that, oh, every enterprise leader out there can confidently say that, oh, this is the ROI that we are kind of getting of the implementation that has happened till now. So we are still in that phase, and that's what a lot of enterprise leaders are excited about. I think Joe spoke about agentic AI, which was again the talk of the town. We've been seeing obviously Amazon making a lot of the AWS kind of making a lot of announcements around it as well. So that was something which was kind of interesting, and also obviously talking about ethical concerns around data privacy and biasness was another big topic which was spoken at, and a lot of leaders were kind of talking about that. And then yeah, I think that was one of the significant observation around it, and the trust in the GenAI solutions as well. Navneet, that I was talking to a lot of people, I felt very interested, but excited to see where this shift takes us towards. It's more about the operations, the AI operations, which folks are excited about. So 2025 will be interesting. But I think, yeah, we all know I have like folks here sitting already speak to so many folks out there. These are creators on the panel discussion at least, so they speak to a lot of people, they have that knowledge. But yeah, for your larger audience, this was what we I kind of could take like a few key takeaways from a lot of executives in common, and it was pretty interesting.
Perfect. I think this is a great segue for us to move to our segment two, where we are looking to talk about human impact and the career in the data of
Mm-hmm.
AI. So I will start with you, Ravi, only there. So
Yeah.
help me understand, right? So Gen AI, I've been talking around. Actually, Roy given very good example how the data, how the glue has kind of baked in that Spark, troubleshooting as a part of the product itself using the Gen AI. So it will be go and parse your Spark log and able to provide you recommendation. I tried out and built a video around it. So maybe you want to go and check. So now we've been seeing there's a lot of data processing part has been getting automated. So do you see there is an impact in the job market around data professionals? We rely on the building the data pipeline. So how you think that will be changing? This question going to be for all of us, but let's start with Ravit, and then we'll move to the other guest.
Yeah, I think great question, here, Navneet. One trend, which is kind of is pivot from is always interesting when we kind of pivot from technical roles to hybrid roles that combine those domain expertise. Even with when we're talking about AI fluency, right? It's like one of the interesting ones. I've seen like so many of my friends kind of moving from being machine learning engineers to also calling themselves now moving towards the direction which is now they are AI engineers. So we're kind of seeing that shift slowly and steadily. So that kind of helps a lot in terms of understanding how the space is moving, what how intelligent we are kind of getting into when we talk about AI, how we are kind of getting to the next level. I think for a little about the challenges as well. As for challenges, there's a clear gap in practical Gen AI skills, like where many professionals know about AI but lack hands-in experience. We don't know what's working, what's not working. You don't have like concrete use cases out there, so you can't talk about it, and that kind of plays a very important role when you're looking like at a career trajectory as well, right? If you today you are an AI engineer, but then how do you grow in that space? I don't know. Like maybe the AI engineers know it because they're working in the space. Maybe they have a roadmap. I haven't seen a clear roadmap. I don't know what type of projects will actually get you to level 2 or level 3 or level 7, right?
Got it.
So that's what I kind of wonder always when we're talking about it, and I think that's a phenomena in anything. When we kind of evolve or new thing kind of comes in, we don't know the career roadmap in that space, but slowly and steadily, when we kind of get more use cases, people solve more problems, then we kind of get to the next level, so it becomes easier. So I think also, one more point I would like to add is also with automation handling, like, repetitive tasks that we're kind of doing, and the need of focus as well on higher order problem solving. I think that is very important and critical. So GenAI is obviously redefining a lot of roles, and those who can embrace that evolution will definitely have like great scope and great opportunities coming their way.
Got it. So, Joe, if I have to ask a question, if you have to write a sequel of your book, Fundamental of Data Engineering, what will be the title of your new book, Fundamental of Data Engineering for Gen AI?
And interesting. I'm not sure on the title. It's interesting because I've been thinking a lot about this as I write the data modeling book. In fact, I was having a discussion today with somebody about this, where they're kind of asking what's the what's the role of any of these practices, especially as you look at reasoning agents like OpenAI's O1 and then O3 models, which just came out last week, and I've been thinking about this a lot. There's a couple threads to this. I would still say that, assuming data engineering is still a thing, and I'll get into this thread in a second, but there are still certain fundamentals that you need to know. And I think one of the biggest gaps that we have in the industry right now isn't more tooling. I think we have wonderful tools. We can always get more tools. But I think our ability to use the tools we have, that capability, that knowledge gap is quite large. I think everyone in this call, when you talk to practitioners or you go into companies, you see all sorts of really interesting things happening. And I think a lot of this is due to lack of standardized practices. I think a lack of a body of knowledge in the field, right? So it's one of my goals is to help create that body of knowledge and hopefully share it with as many people as possible, and to teach as many people as possible to I think become very proficient practitioners and technologists. And so if you look at it through that lens, if we have a lot of great tools, but our capability and understanding of using them is still, that gulf is quite big. AI has a couple of possibilities for us. One, it could augment us in a lot of ways and make us much more powerful. I think everyone here who codes uses copilots or some sort of thing like that. If you don't, cool. Actually, I know one who does it, and it's really good. But a lot of people use them. But if you don't know what to look for in the code, well, how would you know if it's any good or not? Or if it comes up with if the AI comes up with a data model for you, how would you even know if it's any good or not, right? So I think more than ever, the ability to, decipher outputs from AI is as critical, probably more critical than it's ever been, precisely because the mistakes, the consequence of ignoring this means you run the possibility of doing a lot of awesome things much more quickly, and it can 10x your output. At the same time, if you don't know what you're doing, it could 1,000x the amount of mistakes that you make and the amount of technical debt you incur. And so it could potentially make you do a lot of dumb things incredibly quickly. So I look at this as a double-edged sword. The other lens through which I look at this is what happens with management. If you take AI to its logical conclusion, especially with agentic workflows and whatnot, I see a situation where the world actually becomes more practitioners and less managers. Because what do you need? Managers are there to orchestrate work. But I think this flips that paradigm on its head, where now practitioners are orchestrating workers, but they're the ones who knows what's going on. So it poses a lot of interesting dilemmas. And the third possibility, out of probably a few others, is simply none of this matters at the end of the day, and AIs will do everything for us in a few years, and we should all find different hobbies. And so if that's one of the scenarios, I suppose, get going. But I don't think any of us accept that as a reality yet. Or maybe we're just like blissfully trying to punt on that scenario. But I don't know. It is fascinating. Especially if you have kids, you think a lot about this right now. Like, what does the future look like?
And what's your thought there? Like, if I'm a data professional, and especially let's address that one thing. which lately people reach out to me, and a couple of freshers reach out to me. Let's say, the international student, who's I can give an example. So there's a one person who reached out to me. He's my relative, and he's looking to come here in US for computer science, and he was questioning his, hey, whether I should be I should be coming and doing the education in the US around the computer science, how that looked like, and I did not had an answer, right? So what's your take there, right? If someone is starting in the data space as a fresher, uh, and there must be a dilemma in their mind. If I'm like, everyone is doing the like, GenAI do the Python for me, GenAI do the SQL for me, GenAI do the BI for me, where I should be starting my career. Help me understand there. Like, okay, someone, and again, before you go there, just one more request. I'm so sorry for interruption, guys. If you're watching, if you have any questions, please feel free to put on a chat, and we try to answer those as well. Thank you. Yeah, Andrew, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, there's organizations have different levels of maturity, right? Like there's really tech heavy advanced organizations which are already heavily using Gen AI, and then there's probably the bulk of organizations which have not implemented it and may not implement it for several years. But when it comes to career, when I talk to folks, like what problems are you trying to solve? Because in the future, there may be no data teams. Like data may be a skill set, right, that you use in other careers, right? Like there's generally not a writing team who writes all your emails, right? Like we've kind of nailed that down. Everybody writes their own stuff except for PR. And so maybe in the future, data is its own skill set. So what problems are you trying to solve? So whether you're entering data as an early career or not, like what skill sets are you trying to use to solve what problems? So if you're an analyst and you're just coming in and you want to make pretty graphs so that you can get on r/information is beautiful, but you don't actually solve any problems, you're probably going to lose your job to AI, because AI can make a pretty graph without you, and for much less money, and they don't have to give you health insurance, which is the American way. So what are you trying to do? Are you trying to consult with the business and trying to grow it, drive retention, total cost of ownership? What is it? So thinking about education, and I teach at a bunch of different master's programs, on Joe teaches as well. My students ask me that. I'm like, well, what are you trying to solve? Are you trying to learn SQL? You're trying to learn Python for what? What are you trying to do? And regardless of what language you learn or what degree you get, if you can think critically and solve problems, you'll be fine. You can start as an analyst and AI could take your job, but you've got those critical thinking skills where you can go and solve new problems as a product manager or something else. So it doesn't bother me if AI comes in and suddenly automates all the entry-level analyst jobs. If you've developed that critical thinking skill set to solve problems, you'll be okay.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
that's
I tend to agree with everything. I mean, I kind of look at AI as, we started with a rock hammering, some wooden nails, and that's kind of where it is today. And over the years, that rock became a hammer, and then it became, a tractor and a bunch of other stuff. And, maybe there's less people hammering now. There's fewer people hammering, but the ones who are specialized in their jobs are just as important. And I think, like Joe said, like AI is a tool. Right? Just like every other tool, it gets better and better and better. You need to be smart enough to know how to use the tool and make sure the tool doesn't do stupid things. But at the end of the day, it's just going to make you much more productive and valuable. Like Andrew said, like focus on what value you're bringing and how can you enhance that value through these tools, and you'll be successful. But if your job is just to repeat a bunch of stuff and do basic things without a lot of thought and creativity into it, then yeah, AI will do that for you. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality.
That's the real. So what's the way forward? Like, okay, let's say I'm a new data engineer, or I'm a new, even I'm a tenure data engineer. I'm in a mid career, right? And now I have to think of how I should be evolving my role. I'm not gonna go and learn it. Even I don't even today. Even I don't even understand if I have to go learn around the GenAI, whether I should be learning how to build a RAG system, how to build agentic system, how to build text to video, how to build text to text, or I don't even, like, what's the career path look like. There's a no. defined. Remember, we had a very short-lived career around the prompt engineering. Now the model do the prompt engineering for us. So help me understand, if someone is listening our podcast and down the line, if is trying to reflect back, hey, where I should be starting, guys, what I should be reading, where I should be focusing more on. If we have any prescriptive guidance, right? If you're able to share, is- we can start with the Roy there, and then we can move to others.
Oh, right.
Oh, there he goes. Sorry. Repeat that question again. Sorry, I was trying to read one of the questions on the side there.
Yeah. So the question was more like, what will be the prescriptive guidance from us if someone is looking to start their career within the Gen AI on a data space? How you want them to kind of move forward? What all they should be following? What all should courses they should be learning? Anything you have in mind?
Take Joe's course. Definitely do that. Read his book. I think fundamentals is important, right? As much as we all want to jump into the sexy, fun stuff that we see online and in blog posts and stuff like that, like understanding the fundamentals. What is this thing that I'm doing? How do I even take data from the source and parse it and feed it into some model? What is that model even doing, right? Like, what is it used for? There are so many models and so many people pushing you in a million different directions. It's really important to understand the fundamentals and know this model is really good at X, this other model is really good at Y, this is why I should be using it. And if you don't understand these things, then you'll just be dabbling and be playing around. It's great, but nothing, in my mind, nothing productive is going to really come out of it. You're just going to be kind of shooting in the dark. So understand, fundamentals of data engineering. You don't have to be an expert, right? What is data modeling, why it's good for, kind of get started a little bit, understand some of the tooling in the market today. I know a lot of people will tell you, don't bother with tools, they come and go. Yeah, but reality, employers are asking for those things. So if you want to be marketable, you do need to understand how they work and have some basic understanding of how to use them. Play around, do stuff, right? Read blogs, do Coursera things and stuff like that, but play around with it. Just do something, right? Build something. It is immensely powerful to just get your hands on something and say like, wow, I did that. And then you can learn from that. So I think start there in my mind, but I'm
Yeah.
sure it can do more.
I think one thing which I've been observing, and at least in my job, which I've been trying to practice from last years. So, and again, like any other person, I was ignorant to, hey, you know what, this is like GenAI is like any other thing. So now I start using more and more to enable myself. Where I used to read bunch of text to get what's the context of it. Now I just feed to the GenAI model. Hey, can you give me like top 10 talking point or top 5 talking point from this one? That helped me kind of to go and be much more informed. There's a one question, Andrew. I can point that question to you, and Joe, if you want to take that question later, that would be okay. That. So I see there's a question which from the Sandeepan is asking. His my colleague too. Do you think AI agent builders will emerge as a distinct role? Uh, which existing role? Software developers, data engineer, ML engineer are best positioned to transition into that space?
I don't know if agentic AI is going to lead to distinct roles. The trend I'm seeing, and of course it's a limited view that I have, is that a lot of organizations are offloading their agentic AI to vendors who are just providing all the models by API, like choose your best API for which task, and then low code string them all together. That seems pretty easy. I don't know if it's going to be a distinct role in an organization that is going to build them from scratch. I see very little building from scratch, to be frank, and maybe I'm just not talking to the right people. But in terms of like who would be best, I mean, software developers crush at everything because they have that rigor and best practices already in place. Data engineers are really picking up a lot of those best practices and coming along really well. And ML engineers are geniuses. So that, I mean, anybody could pick it up. But I think software engineers, in my opinion, like today, are best positioned to take on that type of work just because of their understanding and practices of building an application?
Perfect.
My short answer to that is absolutely. It's no different than building a website, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Right?
Yeah.
That's kind of bring one more question. Maybe Joe, I can add that top of this question as well, so you can answer both of them together. Is we've been talking about lot of role elimination, right? And hey, this role is not going to be there, and then if you're doing some repetitive, help me understand. Are you seeing any new role coming up in a data and data space with this Gen AI?
I think implicitly, but you can't put a name on it yet, right? I think every developer I see right now, whether it's a data scientist, a software engineer, whatever, ML engineer, I think they're starting to redefine the workflows and the types of things that they're building and the ways they're building, right? So Roy mentioned websites, right? Who remembers the job of webmaster?
Right.
Right, I used to be a webmaster at my university back in the day, way back in the day, and I've been making websites since God knows how long, 90s at least, and so we won't really talk about that anymore, right? That's not really a role, right? So I think the exciting part of today is it reminds me a lot of what it was like back in the day with the web, and to a lesser extent with mobile, where you have a chance to redefine what roles are. Like I think that the common mistake is we try and lump these roles into specific buckets. Like you're going to fit into this bucket over here, or this bucket here. I'm like, well, but you have a chance to reinvent a lot of stuff right now, right? How we do work, what's the output, especially with something where I wouldn't call it intelligent, but you can certainly these quote AI tools. I mean, they certainly can do novel things that we couldn't do before. So I think it gives you a chance to sort of reinvent and maybe come up with a role that doesn't exist yet. I think that's the exciting part of today. Webmaster wasn't a thing until people started building more websites, right? Mobile developer wasn't a thing, and so we started building mobile apps and so forth. Now that's commonplace. That's become commoditized to a large extent, or SaaS companies offer that. But I'd say, look at what you're doing, and this is a perfect chance, if especially if you're stubborn like me or don't like to be shoehorned into certain categories. This is a chance to reinvent things. If you ever was one, you have a chance to start a whole company. I'm starting a new company right now. Guess what? I'm trying to figure out as much as I can, how is it AI powered from day one, right? And doing a very good job at creating workflows and engineering workflows that are AI native, and that gives me a huge advantage. And I would say that it's an exciting time right now. You have a chance to reinvent not just your job, but I would say a lot of things right now.
Yeah.
The way companies are run themselves, it's cool.
That's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Remember the race back in the 90s? Everybody wanted to be a web developer and web designer, and you build a website for your father and for your mother and for your friends at school. That's the agent world.
Well,
That's what we're
it
doing.
is. I'll give you an example. I just downloaded Adobe Creative Cloud the other day because there's something I need in there, and it had Dreamweaver. It's a product. Right? So Dreamweaver used to be how you make websites back in the day.
I used it.
Use it.
So,
I used it because I couldn't make graphics, but that was great.
Ravid, come to you because you've been talking.
Yep.
Lately, I see a lot of your interview, right? And you've been talking to a lot of leaders. What's your thought? Like, are you see there are any role is getting reinvented? Means maybe we have not to put into bucket, but are there any specific skill they look for, right? And why I'm asking this question: if someone is new to this space and they are looking to build a career around it, do you see like this is being very specific skill being asked by the employer?
I think for a fact where first of all, I agree with what Joe, Roy, and Andrew you mentioned about, obviously now is the time when y'all can reinvent the wheel, because that's something everyone's kind of thinking about. Oh, I'm an ML engineer, and exactly the question said so, right? I'm an ML engineer. How can I be an AI engineer? Because that's the need of the hour. I want AI in my title, but then the idea is not to just change your title. Rather, the idea is to actually create something which is maybe the AI agents, or maybe something in AI that can actually change the game of how people are looking at what you're doing. And it will be new, it will be, maybe it might not work, maybe it might work very well, and that's where you've kind of created something. So companies are definitely looking out for like smart companies are looking out for interesting folks who have like a different mindset in terms of not only just saying that, oh, I'm an ML engineer, but now I know stuff that an AI engineer can do. Rather, companies are more and to be honest, those are the skill set that they're looking. What can an AI engineer do? There are various responsibilities that you might see that might exactly match what an ML engineer does, or maybe a data engineer. A few things the data engineer does, a software developer does, right? And that's what is in an AI engineer. But there are companies who are way smarter who might put AI literacy. So what is AI literacy, right? We in the world where we are, and as Roy mentioned, consume as much content as you can, not only just from Coursera, because you want to get the fundamentals right, and that will only make you get to the next level in terms of inventing something, or just doing something which will be for real as compared to what you've been already doing but just wanting to change your title. So I think companies, smart companies, have smart job responsibilities that they're looking at. And if you identify those things, and if you kind of building stuff, like do stuff, like try your hands on various things and stay on top of the newer, interesting, not only just the buzzwords, but the real things that are happening in this space. And I always talk to enterprise leaders, and that's how I'm educated, to be honest, because they're spending millions of dollars, and sometimes they win. Like we all say, oh, 85% of the AI projects are actually still failing. So I feel that is something which will give you a lot of confidence as well, that this has kind of worked for these enterprise companies, and it kind of made sense. They've kind of seen ROIs. Like I spoke to someone from Bayer, which is like a big company from Germany, right? So they have kind of, and they've been working in healthcare, and they've actually told me about some of the very interesting use cases that came out, and they've been using AI since last 1 year. And this is actually a Google customer, right? So that is something I feel would also educate you in terms of also understanding what type of problems can be solved if you really want to work in AI, and what are the skill set that needs to be that you need to have for that. So I think, yeah, those are my 2 cents in
Perfect.
terms of what I'm kind of seeing as well in this space.
So we can move to our next segment. Before that, I think one thing which I've been seeing is, and that was the talk of my reinvent this year is been using SQL for so long, right? And within the SQL we do all the keyword search. How are you able to enable the semantic search on a SQL itself, right? So, and I'm looking to do a podcast on the same, like the people who wrote a blog about this thing, like how you can build the semantic search on a SQL. With that, I can move to the next segment, which we'll be looking to do. We're looking to talk about is personal reflection and the future prediction. So that will be the third, and this is going to be the loaded one. And we only have a 8 minute left, right? So I will give each of you 2 minutes to talk about as a okay, you all been so successful in the data space and this in this community. I'm sure you will be contributing a lot as there too. So what will be 2025 looks like for you? What you're looking to learn there, and what's your prediction look like? You know, 2025 and beyond. Maybe I can start with Andrew.
Yeah, in 2024, open source continued to thrive, and I expect that open will, continue to have that momentum across multiple domains in 2025. And I'm really excited for the best practices. As Joe mentioned, it was kind of the Wild West for a long time in data, and I think we're trying to get to best practices in data engineering and machine learning, and fingers crossed AI. And I think the same problems that we've been talking about for years continue to exist, but now they exist with more consequence. So data quality, it's always been a problem, and now we're talking about not having a human in the loop or less human in the loop, and still having data quality problems. So I think the fundamentals are going to be increasingly important: data quality, data provenance, data modeling. To Joe's point, and I think that'll come around in 2025.
Perfect. Sure. Like maybe I can come to you there.
Sure. Yep. I think like a lot of what Andrew said. I don't think, so assuming like AGI doesn't arrive in 2025, in which case I don't know what happens. I think all bets are off at that point. Assuming that doesn't happen, right? I posted this kind of in the private chat here when we're talking about when Rabbit was talking about talking with IT leaders and C-levels and so forth about their AI projects. I mean, the reality is overwhelmingly IT projects still fail a lot. Like I've seen stats 60 to 80% of the time still. And so, I think it comes back to this thing where there's no magic bullet at the end of the day. At the end of the day, projects are just hard, right? You have institutional inertia, you have people, you have ingrained processes, you have a bunch of stuff, right? So I don't know that AI is going to have any different outcome at this point, just because a track record of every other silver bullet coming into an organization and trying to change things has never happened. Now, what could make the world better? Well, fundamentals are certainly great. I think AI, again, has a ton of potential. I use it all the time, every day. But I just know that, the challenge for a lot of companies is still going to be the same as it ever was, right? How do you add value with change management, with these implementing these new processes and tools? Especially, I think the crux of AI is when you're dealing with people at these companies, you can take one of two approaches. You can segue it in and say, this is going to help you. But I think, the challenge is going to be, do people feel like this is helping them, or do they feel threatened by it?
Got it.
Right. And so, you could just take a heavy-handed approach and say, doesn't matter. So we'll deal with that problem later. But this is increasingly going to be some of the questions that are asked. I mean, it's already being asked, right? But I think these are going to be not just for 2025, but sort of defining questions the next, at least to the end of the decade, is, how can we, now that AI is here, and it's been here for a while, which just came by different names, but now how do we integrate this in the fabric of our organization to yield more value? And can we do this in a better way versus the kind of the graveyard of IT projects that we've had in the past? So we'll see.
Perfect. Ravit, to you.
Yeah, no, I think those are fantastic insights, thanks, Joe. And what I feel is, like, to be honest, I might sound a little philosophical, but stay curious, stay proactive. Yeah, it's gonna obviously that's gonna get you to a place where you stop thinking, and now it's your time to start thinking again about various things. GenAI is obviously evolving very fast. You don't want to wait for the opportunities, rather get them. We've kind of spoken on this podcast as well, right? Reinvent the wheel, go out, reinvent things. So definitely create the opportunities for yourself, whether it's learning from a new tool, experimenting the AI applications in your workflow. You might want to also just stay very much informed about the different the platforms, say the podcast like this as well, right? We've kind of shared about some of the interesting things that we've seen in the space, so why not stay on top of something like this? Though, and also, the key is to embrace change. I think change is, if you don't embrace it, it's going to be a mess. We are in that space, things kind of evolve, and you have to obviously embrace the change. So one more thing that I feel, Navneet, that folks need to remember: it's not about mastering any technology. You can't do it overnight, and it's not going to happen. Like, no one can say I'm best at anything right now, right? I've done like 200 episodes, I still say I'm not best at hosting, right? Because you keep learning. So that's what is with the technology as well. It's about understanding how to apply it, how to solve the real problem. What is your project related to, and so solve those real world problems, which will help you to get to the next level. And I feel that's where the future lies. A little philosophical than what folks are talking,
No,
but I
it's
kind of
sometimes
feel it's
better philosophy
Yep.
than that's help. With to you, Roy.
Yeah, so I think everybody said is on par. For me, if you look at AI, the cat's out of the bag, right? I think at the end of the day, just like when the iPhone came out and organization only allowed BlackBerries, by IT. An iPhone came and everybody just used the iPhone, whether they allowed it or not. That's AI, right? So people are going to start bringing that in. They're going to start using it. I think what you end up with is just a lot of sort of creativity and innovation, and people within a company coming in and say, hey, I tried this with the data, or hey, I tried this agent or this model or this approach with the data. I really think it's going to add value to the company. So more and more people are empowered to add value in different ways through AI. So I think that's the underlying, or sort of maybe the overarching trend that's pushing the community forward. From my perspective, I think open table formats as a unified data layer is really going to accelerate in 2025. It's going to enable both analytics and AI and experimentation without duplication on some baseline reasonable quality of data that's modeled and that's designed properly. And then within that trend, there's a bunch of other stuff. You can read it on my blog, but I think that's going to be the big driver. And then on top of that, I think governance and security is really going to come back to the front, because we can't just do things willy-nilly because it's cool. Like, you have to do it. You have to protect customer data. You have to protect company data. So I think that's going to come back in to say, you want to move fast, you want to innovate, you want to do stuff, you got to do it responsibly. So for me, those are kind of the big things in 2025, 2026. But I'm very bullish on open table format. So you'll hear lots more of that from me.
Perfect. So with that, maybe I can say my personal reflection and future predictions are, so me work as a solution architect. What I try to see here is how I'm able to help my customer or the person who I interact with to build their solution, which is more of a GenAI ready, like how we able to go and implement those and learn around it. As some Ravit has said, like, we don't need to afraid of technology. We should be embracing the technology. We should be using it in a right way, so we become more productive, right? Where if I was doing some task in 1 hour, if I'm able to do the task in 10 minutes, I will be adding value to my personal life. I've been adding value to my organizations, etc. And that eventually help in reflecting to your career progression as well. With that, happy Merry Christmas and happy holidays, and thanks to all my guests. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye.
Thanks,
Yeah, thanks
Navneet.
everyone. Yeah, man.
Thanks, everyone.
Later.
Thank you.
Hey, guys.